Should go live. And I think we're live. Okay, let me see. Let's queue up everything here. And that's the wrong one. Live. We're going live. Okay. 1 second as we get set up here. One last thing. Everybody talk to yourself. Boom. Let's see. Come on. Computer loading. Please stand by. It's not. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a live stream episode here of Geek Homeworld. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, and once again, my friend Scott Schreiber is joining us here. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. It's that time of year.
It is. We love talking about movies and films, and down the road, I know we'll be doing an episode or so about the Oscars leading up to it, the nominations, and everything else. And we did a pre-Oscars one. You can check in our catalog at geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. We're also on YouTube at Geek Homeworld 4248. We haven't got a full name there, but we're there. Just look for Geek Homeworld. You'll find us on YouTube. But anyway, and wherever you get your podcast, you'll find Geek Homeworld. And this is a special podcast, and I'm just going to show you I'm proud of my new logo. I finally got a video logo here. I'm going to run that real quick. You'll see. Let's see. Come on. Oops, not there. I'm gonna figure this out. Let's see. All right, let's play it again. That's our new logo, and you just heard hopefully, if everything went well, you heard the new audio intro there. And if I remember at the end, I'll play the outro. It's supposed to be in the video, but I don't know. Little technical things going on here.
All right, 2024, be upward and beyond, huh?
Yep, onward and upward. And let's see, add to the stage. Boom. There's the list. Let's see. I guess I can bring that full screen. Oh, that looks better. That I can see. Yay. Hopefully everyone can see that well. And we're live. So let's see. I just want to double check one thing here. I know we're live, but just want to make sure that I'm seeing. Let's see. Where is it? Come on. Boom, boom, boom. We're live.
All right, but as you can see, we've got our whole lists here. We've got Ed's got his top 10. I've got my top 10, and then we put together what would be a little more considered geeky films, sci-fi, animated, action films that we thought were the best of the year too. So this should be a fun talk. We've got some honorable mentions down there too. Got a little crossover. I think over the years since being friends, we've influenced each other a lot. I don't know if I would have
definitely
right. I think maybe 10 years ago, I wouldn't have put a comic book film, in my top 10, but here we are. And again, I don't know if you would have had a movie like Saltburn in your top 10 years ago either. So
I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't. And so yeah, we're growing. Our tastes are changing, and that happens.
Indeed, it does.
And let's see. I need to go on a full screen here because we have the chat here. By the way, if you're joining us for the live stream here, we do have the chat. You can. I'm going to say hi to everyone. Hello, and you can respond in the chat if your comments come up. I might be able to pull them up in the podcast here, and who knows. So let's get to it, I suppose. We want to start here. I'm going to make this full screen so I can actually see. Yeah, one of the disadvantages of getting old. Like, what is this? So we're going to start quickly. We're going to do our honorable mentions, and then you'll see how we'll pivot off of my 2023 list. If you see there on the Excel sheet that we're sharing here on the podcast, we'll go from number 10. We'll do my number 10, then we'll go over to Scott's number 10. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we'll work
then,
our way through that. A lot of crossovers, so we'll just
yeah,
go through it seamlessly here. We're going to cover a
right.
lot of great films here.
And like Scott said earlier, you see the first column or so, A through D is, I guess I should have separated them, put a little separator there. Those are our top 23 films, mine and Scott's. And then we have our top 10 geeky films, which, we'll go into that a little bit later. But let's begin. Sorry.
Before we get into our honorable mentions, I do want to
Sure.
say there are a few films that each of us have not seen. I know that like Past Lives, American Fiction, are a couple that I'm looking forward to. Zone of Interest, still haven't seen those. So who knows? Mine could change a little bit, but this is pretty solid. This is pretty set in stone, except for a handful of films we haven't seen.
Right.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Well, one thing just to piggyback off of that is those films may end up. You may see them later if we're able to get to see them later. Because we may have missed the window on Past Lives in theaters, but if we're able to see it before the Oscars, it may end up on this list. So some of those could be end up on our top 10. But right now we're going with what we got. So we're going to start with our honorable mentions. And first honorable mention on mine is Sound of Freedom, a very pivotal film, an important underdog kind of film in 2023. We also have Elemental on there as that was one of my honorable mentions that didn't quite make up my top 23 films.
Yeah, but I see films. It did make your number 10 over there, our number 10 in Geeky Films.
It did over there, as you see on the right side, correct. And a film that got crushed by the Barbenheimer phenomenon that you couldn't have planned if you tried, of 2023, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. It kills me that it didn't make the top 10, but that tells you how good the crop of films I thought this year were. Because I was telling Scott earlier on, I was like, I don't feel very confident about the films of 2023. And then when I was doing my list, I didn't realize I had seen as many of those films as I did, and the ones that I saw were really, I hit a lot of the really good choice ones I was privileged to see. So Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, I'm a big Tom Cruise fan, always been, always will be. And it's an honorable mention on this particular list. You will see it actually on my top 10 geeky films. But next we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which you'll see on Scott's list.
Loved it.
I'm sorry. I messed up, didn't I?
No, that's okay. Basically, you've got Guardians and Barbie, which show up on my list.
Right.
My honorable mentions, I have Asteroid City. A lot of people probably were a little turned off by this because I admit it may not have a satisfying ending. But if you like Wes Anderson films, the production design is top notch. I thought it was fun to see Scarlett Johansson and Tom Hanks work with Wes Anderson for the first time in live action. I believe Scarlett's done voiceover with him, but I enjoyed Asteroid City. I thought it was interesting. It was basically about the meaning of life, but in the end, they didn't really give us an answer. But it still stuck with me. I like the production design's impeccable as always in a Wes Anderson film. Underneath that, I have The Iron Claw. I'm a wrestling fan. I love this film. The reason why it doesn't rate a little higher is because I think they didn't quite they kind of glossed over some of the problems, and they kind of made them look a little too superhero and glossed over some of their flaws. But Zac Efron, amazing, like career defining role there. He beefed up big time. Just became a huge specimen. Jeremy Allen White, if you're fans of The Bear, he had a great role in it as well. Also honorable mention, I really enjoyed the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film. Like, I thought Seth Rogen did a great job producing that. They made it look like the comic books. They kind of took a page out of, I guess, what Spider-Verse was doing and making it look more like what the pages actually look like. And I just had a really fun time when I saw that in 3D, and I thought it was really well done. I also have Killers of the Flower Moon and The Color Purple there in my honorable mentions, which end up in your top 10. How about we crack into your top 10? What was your number top?
Well, we didn't mention the two at the bottom there. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is going to show up these last two on each things, these two were not on my list for my top 10, but they, just like your two on the bottom of your honorable mentions, were not on my list. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Barbie, the biggest film of the year by far, didn't make my top 10. And
so what did?
Yeah, but on your side, Scott, what are your two honorable mentions?
As I said, Killers of the Flower Moon and Color
You did
Purple.
say that. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's what,
I'm trying to run. If you could see all I've got a phone, I've got my Rodecaster Pro, I've got like 2 monitors going here. It's crazy. All righty. So
fair
yes.
enough. Your number 10 film was, Ed.
My number 10 film for 2023 was The Holdovers. And that's a film that shows up on your list at number 4 for the year.
Number 4. I was really high on this film. Like, the script is maybe the best script of the year. Great screenplay. It touches on so many like important issues. Like, I couldn't believe like how many little things they worked into the script, you know, like social issues and everything. And Giamatti, one of his best performances of his career. I know you feel the same way.
I do.
And the actress Divine Joy Randolph, I believe is her name. She's phenomenal in it. I think they'll both probably get Oscar nominations. And the kid was really good too.
I really feel like this was really, there's another film we'll talk about later that had a very good ensemble cast, but I really like the ensemble. Actually, there were a lot of films that did, but I really like the ensemble cast of this. I felt like everybody's little story had a moment to shine. So I think that was a good thing.
Absolutely. And it felt like a movie straight out of 1970 too, you know, also it's like it's set in 1970 and it felt like it was released in 1970. It's one of those films that really nailed the era. So yeah,
yes,
dang near perfect movie, I think.
Yep. Very good one. And your number 10, Scott, for 2023 was
maybe not a dang near perfect movie for some. But I don't know. The more this film sat with me all year, Beau is Afraid. It's an Ari Aster film. He did Midsommar and Hereditary. Like, so he's typically more horror. This was horrific in ways. But I could really see Joaquin Phoenix sneaking in an Oscar nomination for this. He's so good in this. The makeup, the hair and makeup really does the part too. I could see a nomination for it as well. But yeah, it may not be for everybody. It's definitely one of those movies where I think I think we saw it together and you walked out kind of being like, what the heck did we just watch? But it's weird. The director really need to work out his mommy issues. But it's like everything was great though. Production design, acting. I love the Parker Posey is fantastic in it. Patti LuPone is really good in it. It's just the cinematography, everything. Like and that's how I can typically rate films too. It's like I look at every aspect, acting, you know, camera work, sound, everything. And if you throw a lot of these things together and are solid, I'm going to rate you higher. Plus, it had a point. That too. I want films to have a point, you know, to have a message, a clear message. And this was clearly about, you know, being raised, you know, guilt-ridden, you know, your mother basically, you know, guilting you to death. And, you know, and it kind of, and it affected his whole life, you know, just the way that his mother raised him and was so, you know, was so smothering. And it was a really interesting psychological film. Not for everybody, but it definitely sat with me. So it made my top 10.
In a year, and I have a prop here that's appropriate for what I'm about to say, but in a year when Joaquin Phoenix should have given a performance for an Oscar-worthy performance for Napoleon. I'm holding up for those listening on podcast, I'm holding up the IMAX Napoleon poster. In a year where I was expecting Oppenheimer and Flowers of the Killers of the Flower Moon to be like the top 3 films. What a year 2023 surprised me with. Beau is Afraid is a movie I think I'm afraid that I'll never watch again. It was very disturbing on so many levels, but it is the kind of performance that I think you said, Scott, that only someone like Joaquin Phoenix could give. Yeah. And if there's an outside chance that he gets nominated for anything this year as Best Actor, I could see him getting a nod for Beau is Afraid, and I wouldn't be against that as well. But
yeah, we certainly didn't get the Napoleon movie we wanted. So
right, and it's so much. So I was so dissatisfied by everything that I heard about it, and then I ended up reading some stuff about it, and I never actually got around to seeing the film. I kept putting it off, and then there was like one showing left, and just a lot of things have happened this year. I've been very busy, and so I wasn't able to see it in theater. So I still have not seen it, and that's why it didn't make an honorable mention or my top 10, because I didn't see it. And I can only go on judge films that I've seen, and I didn't see Napoleon, but
and
I saw Beau is Afraid, and oh well.
No, I will say about Napoleon that it just kind of fell short. Like, Vanessa Kirby's the best thing about it. I'm kind of hoping she sneaks in for a supporting actress nomination. All the sound design, everything's fantastic. It's, all the battle sequences are phenomenal, but the rest of it just didn't come together. So,
well, next on our list is a film I just mentioned for my 2023 films, Killers of the Flower Moon, number 9, and that actually shows up as one of your honorable mentions, which surprised me for 2023 on your part.
Yeah, I think it didn't land. It was one of those movies where, for me, I see all, like, the score is great. The late great Robbie Robertson of the band, his score for this film is really fantastic. Cinematography, fantastic. DiCaprio, fantastic as usual. De Niro, back to form. Like, that was fantastic. And then Lily Gladstone, an awesome performance as well. So there are a lot of key things there. But for me, the ending of that movie, it just landed flat for me. It was just kind of like, and I think there's also other little things where it's like it could have used a little more Native American voice. Like, I don't know. There were just little nitpicky things that kept it out of the top 10, but enough good things where, yeah, it's definitely one of the best of the year. It was really cool to see DiCaprio and De Niro in a film together under Martin Scorsese. His two muses in one film was very cool. But yeah, it just didn't make its mark like the others for me.
Once again, it was about 30 minutes too long.
Yep.
As Scorsese is these days. It's definitely a top tier film, but it didn't land exactly the same way for me. I felt like it did capture that period of time well. I think it did that. And Lily Gladstone, she was fantastic. Probably the best part of the movie for me.
Yeah.
But there's something about it. It just wasn't great. And in a year when I was expecting greatness, I didn't get exactly what I was hoping for. So
right. To me, it didn't feel like The Departed. It didn't feel like Gangs of New York. It didn't feel like his classic films. It just kind of felt a little bit short for me. But still, one of the better films of the year. But still, it's yeah. I feel you.
Yep. And then what's your number 9 film there?
This is another one that may have turned people the wrong way, but I think we both saw the merit in it because it is so well done, and it's Saltburn. Emerald Fennell,
yes.
who this is her second film, and as I know Ed knows, and maybe other listeners in the past know, that I loved Promising Young Woman. The film Promising Young Woman was one of my favorite films a few years ago, and so Emerald Fennell, this is her second film after that, and it really is kind of as disturbing as Promising Young Woman. It's definitely a nice twist at the end. I will say I saw it coming, the twist. If I didn't see the twist coming, I think it would be higher up, like it is on your list, 7 or even higher.
It's actually number 7.
Yeah. So if I didn't see it coming, but great lead performance from Barry Keoghan. Wonderful performances all around. That's a great ensemble right there, as you were talking about ensembles.
Definitely.
Rosamund Pike as the as the aristocratic mother. The young woman who played the sister, I think, should get some recognition. That played, I think the character's name was Venetia. I believe her name's Allison Oliver. She was fantastic, and she's an unknown. And I thought she was as good as any of the other people in that film. She was fantastic. So
she really was. She gave a stellar performance in that film.
Yeah, and then Jacob Elordi was great. You know, people may know him from what's the Euphoria on HBO. He also just played Elvis in Priscilla this year, so he kind of had a big year. But yeah, the cinematography though and the production design of that film is incredible, and I think that's what really lands it in my top 10 is just the style. It's just Emerald Fennell as a director has such a creative eye on the way she composes her shots, and I love the camera work and the angles and everything about her film. So Saltburn definitely made it for me.
And I can say for me, I very much got a Talented Mr. Ripley vibe off of this film. It felt like a similar film, and I will say that I think in a year of really strong screenplays, I feel like this one was most interesting, and that's what really drew me to this film. Just the twists and turns, and in the end, you're not expecting that ending. I mean, you probably saw it coming, Scott, but I didn't see it at first. But when you put the whole film together, it's a really good character study, and it deals with the haves and the have-nots, and there's so many different layers in this film. Yeah. And
it's interesting. It also kind of flips it on its head. You kind of think that the rich are the villains, you know, eat the rich whole mentality, but you know, without any spoilers, I think people should go out and see it. I think it's on Prime Video right now. If you've got Prime.
Yeah, it's on Prime.
It kind of flips it on its head, and it's like maybe they're not the villains, but yeah, very interesting. Some disturbing scenes in it. Be prepared for at least 3 disturbing scenes, but
it's not a film you take your mother to go see.
No, exactly. Nope, exactly.
Next on the list, we're up to number 8, and this was a film that I was glad to see Ben Affleck in. I always go blank on his name. The
Matt
Talented Mr. Yeah, ironically, I just thought of the Talented Mr. Ripley. Matt Damon.
You're just like Jimmy Kimmel. You don't like Matt Damon either.
Huh? I just never can remember his name, but it was a great ensemble cast. And Air is the movie we're talking about Michael Jordan and the mother.
More specifically, Michael Jordan's shoe.
Michael Jordan's shoe. And this in a year where we had a movie about a BlackBerry and what was the other thing? Tetris, you know, and we had, you know, I hadn't seen those, but this made me care about Nike and about the Air Jordan even more, and even respect Michael Jordan, but especially his not just his father, but his mother, played by Viola Davis.
Yeah, Viola Davis, another fantastic turn. She's probably the highlight of the film, although Matt Damon carries that movie pretty much too, though. Like, he's so good in it. And you don't really think about, like, this is a movie about how a shoe came to be. Do you think it's going to be exciting?
Yeah, about a shoe, and you
wouldn't, but it's so well done. The pacing is great. Like, you care about these people. Like, you really care about Sonny Vaccaro is the real person that Matt Damon plays. You care about him and his mission and his belief behind Michael Jordan too. And I love how they never show Jordan's face. He's always this mythical creature, you know. It's really well done. Ben Affleck's really good as Phil Knight, and he directs it. Yeah, he directed it as well. So,
and I think once again they another film that captured that time element. You know, I felt like I was in the '80s there. You know, which is always a good place to be. Anyway, so that's number 8 on my list, and now to number 8 on your list was a film that recently came out in the last month or so. And talk about it.
Yeah, so I have The Boy and the Heron at number 8. It is my favorite animated film of the year. It is my favorite foreign film of the year. It is from Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki, who nobody thought was ever going to make a film again. If you're not familiar with Miyazaki, he did classic films like Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, Castle in the Sky, Ponyo. I mean, the list goes on and on.
It keeps going on.
No, and he's a legend in the animated world, and so for him to come and do another film, and then to do one that's so brilliant, it's semi autobiographical. It's essentially about a young boy who loses his mother in the war, in World War II, and set in Japan. This is a Japanese film, and then this kind of myth, this magical tower that he discovers that can connect him to the living to the dead. And it's this really great story about, mothers and sons. And he throws a lot of these nods from his old films into the film. So like there are these visual things that you're like, oh shoot, that looks so much like that character from, Princess Mononoke. And this looks like this. And so there are these elements where he's paying homage to his past films. It's almost like this is his swan song. This is his master opus. And I was just so taken with the film. The score is incredible. Like I feel like it has a chance at an Oscar nomination. It's definitely going to be up for animated film. And hopefully it beats Spider-Verse. And no offense to Spider-Verse, but I really want Boy and Heron to win. A lot of your listeners probably be like, "Oh, who's this guy going around?" But anyway, no, I think everybody should check it out. It's especially if you like Studio Ghibli. It's so good, so good. And then I'll go ahead and move on to my number 7. We'll kind of get caught up.
Well, we're gonna go we're gonna go from Saltburn to Bottoms.
To Bottoms. How appropriate.
Oh dear.
So since we already talked about your number 7, we'll just go on to my number 7, and it was Bottoms. This is the funniest movie of the year for me. Yes, Barbie's funny. Yes, Poor Things is funny. I really like No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. But this to me is the funniest film of the year. It's about 2 lesbian high schoolers that basically create a fight club so they can get laid. And it's just kind of it's a queer take on, the old classic American Pie, basically. It's kind of that, where with these breakout performances, Rachel Sennott is so good as the lead actress here. She also co-wrote the film with the director. Io Edebiri's also in it. I'm going to mention the Bear. She's also in that. If you know the Bear, she's fantastic in Bottoms. And then the breakout performance of Bottoms is former NFL future Hall of Famer Marshawn Lynch. He is so hilarious as their guidance counselor in this. It was the breakout performance of the year for me was Marshawn Lynch. So if you need a good comedy, Bottoms is it. Go check it out.
Alrighty, that brings us up to our number 6.
You know what? Actually, let me interrupt you there. It may make sense for us. Let's go back over. Let's go over to the Geeky Films and go 10 through 8, and we'll work our way up to knock some of those off. What do you say?
That sounds fine with me. I
think we're kind of ignoring the Geeky Films right now. Let's get over there and talk about a few of these.
All righty, let me see. I have to exit full screen on that. Okay.
Okay. I would see it right here. Number 10 is Elemental. You mentioned earlier in your honorable mentions.
Yes. Is Elemental. And in a year where a lot of films didn't do what they were supposed to, this is one film that stuck it out. It didn't open big for Pixar, correct? I think this is Pixar.
Yeah.
And
this is Pixar's newest one.
And it slowly chugged away until I think it made a profit and came out on the positive side. But Elemental was really a good film. It wasn't the best Pixar that I've seen, but I did enjoy it. And when I was watching it in the theater, there were families in there, and they seemed to enjoy the film as well. And I thought it was a really nice tale. And it did like 154 million. I'm not going to really go over box office. We have it there on the screen, but it did okay. It did better internationally, but that, it's still a good film. It was a fun film, and we didn't have enough family films this year, I don't think, but maybe we'll see a little bit more diversity in the types of films. But
yeah, no, I really enjoyed it as well. It definitely is in my top 5 of animated films, and I hope it gets an Oscar nomination. I may have I would put Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Spider-Verse and Boy and Heron above it probably, but still, it's like it's another great installment by Disney and Pixar with a great message. Again, I mean, it may be a message that they tell a lot, but I mean, it's for each generation. You keep needing to reinforce that, that we are all welcome, because it essentially, I think it's kind of the first time they really represented Arab culture, or one of the few times. So no, it's I thought it was another great installment there for Pixar.
And I'm just realizing something now. I don't think I mentioned this earlier when I'm looking at, you have one honorable mention, or I did under my Geeky Films was, actually that was me though. Oh, I take that back. Okay, never mind. That was Barbie. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused by my own thing here. All right, just shut up and move on. I will. Okay, number 9 on our Geeky Films for the year. This was a film, another kind of underrated film. I had fun in this film and enjoyed it. It was Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons that I can remember, but this was a fun movie, and it was nice to see Chris Pine in something. And they had the guy that was on that all the ladies liked from I don't remember his name, but he had a part in there from
Bridgerton, the Bridgerton guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't know what his name was. He's got like a French name.
It's something like that. It's Renee Page or something. Yeah.
But it was a good cast, and I enjoyed it. It was a fun film, and that's number 9 on our Geeky Films for the year.
Yeah, it surprised me. Like I didn't really expect it to be as good, but it was very funny. And I'm not a Dungeons and Dragon person either, so I don't. But I have some other friends that are into it, and they really said that it captured so many things about the culture that they got right. So yeah, it definitely deserves to be on here. Well done, and it did well in the box office, I believe too.
Yeah, it did okay. It could have done better, but it did enough to break even. And but the next film on there, on both of these lists, this Geeky top 10 and my regular top 10 of 2023 films, I agonized over films that just almost made the cut. And number 8 for me was Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 on my top 10 Geeky Films of 2023, and it was an honorable mention on my top 10 films of 2023.
Yeah, your overall.
Yeah, my overall. And it had Oppenheimer or Barbenheimer, both of them not occurred 1 week after the release of this film, this film would have done a lot better. And it almost recouped with the international box office, but it only did like 172 million domestic, which is not good for a film in the Mission Impossible.
No, Barbenheimer definitely hurt it, but it was I don't know if it was on par with Fallout. I think Fallout might have been quite a little bit better of a film, but this was really good. Talk about like in Boy and the Heron, where they paid respect to the previous films. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning did the exact same thing. They basically picked these little vignettes from earlier films and put them into the film, which I really did like about that. And I will say too, I want to say about this, and I haven't talked about Spider-Verse at all. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I feel like Dead Reckoning did what Spider-Verse didn't do, where it was a part 1 that told a complete story. So, that's where I'm getting a little critical, towards Spider-Verse, but I do think this is the way you do a part 1 of where, all right, we're going to tell a complete arc. We're going to end we're still going to have an overall theme that we're going to continue in part 2, but we've completed an arc that makes this movie feel complete. And that's what I think Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 did.
And,
great.
Getting into the information as we went through 2023, we saw how this film deals with an AI, and that's all the buzzword this year and going into 2024, where we're at right now. It's AI is becoming a thing. And so this film feels like it was a warning, a precursor to all of that. And another thing and not making excuses, I'm just stating facts here. Mission Impossible was Part 1, Dead Reckoning Part 1 was being filmed during the worst parts of the pandemic. And they were one of the productions that were able to stay open for a while with a lot of their protocols. And the industry was really looking to Tom Cruise and the production to pull it through. And there were some, missteps here, but all in all, they kept on track and they were one of the shining stars. And so with all of that and pandemic protocols and such, with a lot of films, it put a lot more on the bottom line, a lot more expenses. So this film had to, I think, make about 400 million domestic to really kind of break even or get a little bit over that. And it didn't quite do that, and so that was what was disappointing. And had Barbenheimer not happened, I'm very confident the story on Dead Reckoning Part 1 would have been a much brighter one. I really feel that, had it not lost the major screens. And I was hoping that there would have been a push after the Barbenheimer phenomenon subsided in a couple weeks, but Barbenheimer didn't subside. So in fact, they came back and they added more screens. And so Mission Impossible was kind of dead on arrival, unfortunately. But interesting that Boy and the Heron on your list was number 8. And also on my top geeky films, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was number 8. Because you drew the comparison, which I was thinking of earlier. I was going to mention when you were talking about Boy and the Heron, how they kind of borrowed from previous installments, it seemed like, of things. So anyway, number 7 of our top 10 geeky films of 2023 is a film that just missed my main top 23.
But it did make mine as number 5. So I tell you what, let's skip over it for a minute, and we'll come to it when we get to 5. We'll go ahead and we'll talk about Spider-Verse, and then we'll get back into, because after that, I think the top five geeky films are all on your actual list, your overall list. Okay. So we'll do
Spider-Man there, and then we'll jump back over to mine because we got to get number 6 there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do Spider-Verse and then go get Mr. Wick over there.
All right, so the number 7 on the Geeky Films is Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 3, and now we're going to talk about the number 6 in the top 10 Geeky Films of 2023 was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yes. Go ahead.
All right, so I don't want to put a damper on this. This is because I do have I am critical about this movie. It is in my top 20. Don't get me wrong. It's in my top 20 this year. There's so many great things about the animation and the script and the score. Wow, the score is incredible. But again, my issue is with the overall arc. There's not really a complete story there. You can maybe argue that the story is I don't know, is kind of more about Gwen, I guess, in a way, and it's somewhat resolved.
Somewhat.
You might be able to convince me, but it did not feel as complete. And I don't want movies turning into episodic television. I want, and I just don't want movies to become episodic where you're not telling me a complete story. So that's my hit on it. But so many great things about it. Holy cow. How many Spider-Men did they get into that movie?
I have no idea. I don't think they left anybody out. There's like tons of Easter eggs on it. There's other videos about all that. But yeah, the film itself, a hell of an ending, but damn it. I hate the ending as well because, it's a hell of a cliffhanger for the next one. But I think originally it was put out there that it was like a part 2 and a part 3, but
sure.
But then when they came back out after, I guess, it being, stopped for the pandemic or whatever, because, through a monkey wrench and everything, by the time it came out, it wasn't in that final push for it, the advertisement. So some people went in thinking that. And then I had a Lord of the Rings. It might have been the Two Towers where the screen went black. Was it Two Towers at the end of that, or for Lord of the Rings? I can't remember which one, but one of them, just the screen went black. That's what I felt like, It's like, what? You can't leave me here. I didn't want to leave the theater at the end of this film. I wanted to know exactly what happens. And, great cliffhanger for the third one, but like Scott said, it would have been nice if they did like Mission Impossible and wrapped it up and made it a one complete
basically
film.
Like, see you in 3 years or however long it's going to be,
Nobody wants to wait that long. But exactly.
Yeah.
So that was our number 6, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, on the top 10 geeky films of 2023. So we're going to go back over to number 6 under my main top 10 2023 films, and this
happens to be the number 5 geeky film. So how about that? That works out.
Oh, it sure is. Yeah, it leads right into it. John Wick Chapter 4. What can I say about this film? It looks freaking fantastic in 4K. It looks great. The cinematography, the choreography. My God, there needs to be awards for this film for the stuntmen and women out there in this, and Keanu and everyone.
Yeah, I really do wish that's the one category that the Oscars need to expand. There needs to be a stunt category. So,
and it should be the honorary Tom Cruise Oscar.
Well, yeah, you have to at least give him.
Yeah, they have to give him that, the lifetime achievement in that. John Wick, sometimes I can get lost in the story because I'm so into the action, and the action does not give up in this. This film gives you exactly what you want. It's the kind of fan service, but while still making a good, solid film. It's the kind of fan service film that is still solid. And this film easily could have been higher on my list, but some of the films on there just inched it out. And number 6 on my overall top 10 of 2023 films is John Wick Chapter 4. And that leads us into...
All right. So we'll go to number 5 here, and we'll go ahead and do your number 5. Let's talk about
my number 5. Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about Zissou. It shows up at number 5 on your overall list and number 4 on the geeky list.
Exactly. And it was a film that I said, I told Scott early on, I said, there's going to be, the reason I did 2 separate films lists, because some films were inherently more geeky, more to this audience, but there's other films that definitely were not geeky. And this was one of those. But I saw this, it was one of the films, I didn't know what the heck it was when I watched it. It was one of the Regal Monday night films that they do, the little sneak preview films.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay, cool.
Yeah, and so I went in totally blind, not knowing what it is. I didn't even know how to say it. I didn't know what I was watching, and I was like, damn, this is a good film. It is wall-to-wall action. It's grit. It's just very visceral. It's just a really good film, and it doesn't pretend to be something it isn't. It has like one purpose, and you just feel that purpose through the film. And
essentially, for those that don't know,
done.
For those that don't know about the plot of it, it's essentially a one-man killing crew. Like he's taking on a whole battalion of Germans, and he's found some gold essentially, and he comes across a battalion, and they see the gold, and they try to take it from him, and so there's this whole struggle between him and the battalion, and he kills a lot of Nazis. It's fantastic.
It's always good when you can do that on screen.
Sorry,
but
sorry, Nazis.
But not. So yeah, what a powerful film it was, and it could have been higher. I think it probably surprised Scott that I had it even on my list. But years ago, I probably wouldn't have gone for a film like this. But I don't know. This film just seemed to like really just hit it on all cylinders, and so I can't say enough about this film. This is a film, if it came on TV, I'd definitely watch it again.
But it is kind of a crossover movie. Yes, it's this bloody action movie, but it does have a big heart and a meaning to it. So and that's why I do have it, I believe, on my list a little higher than John Wick Chapter 4, a little higher than what was the other action one? Mission Impossible. It just slightly higher because it has that point. It has a message, So yeah, it's very good. And
all right, so then, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I believe it's Swedish. I want to say it's Swedish or Norwegian or something, but some of it's in English language, so it kind of hops between both. But.
Yeah, it's enough where you can follow what's going on. If there's any language barriers, it didn't bother me. I was enthralled. I couldn't wait to see what the next frame was on that. So that was number 5 on my overall list for 2023. Next is on Scott's list, his number 5.
And my number 5, one of my favorite comic book Marvel films that has been made. Is it as good as Volume 1? I mean, I don't know. It's hard to compare, but I loved Volume 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's the rare, it really is the rare Marvel film that has a message beyond, good over evil. This was so much more than that. It became essentially the animal rights film of the year, and
it was hard to watch some of it. Like if you had younger, I remember when I watched it originally, I said, if you have younger kids, you might want to think twice before taking them, especially, it's weird. We did not plan this at all on our list, but going from John Wick, where I jumped off that whole franchise when they killed this puppy, I was gone. And now this year I got a puppy, so I understand it now. And, but, I came back to the John Wick franchise, but Guardians deals with that animal cruelty. And I wish that there was some stuff they wouldn't have shown, but it made the film more powerful. And if I could say one thing to interject here, what Ant-Man Quantumania did, how it changed its overall kind of lightheartedness and tried to go serious, that didn't work for a lot of fans. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 taking this more serious turn, I think brilliantly did work for me.
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
opinion.
While also balancing it with that Guardians humor. It was still there. I remember people saying
the humor was still there.
That, it's a different tone. And it's like, I mean, yeah, there's some heavy stuff, but that humor is still there. And what I loved about it too is I actually have it in my top 5 screenplays this year, because it's really smart how they ended all the characters. It's like they didn't do the fan service stuff. They didn't do, we're going to put these two together. They basically were like, we're doing what makes sense for these characters. It's like, and because especially with Star-Lord and Gamora, some people were bummed about that. But you know what? It totally makes sense. It's just like where all of these people land. It's how you end a franchise. It's how you end a trilogy. And James Gunn deserves so much credit for it. And now he's going to go
for this to be his swan.
Sorry, yeah. I was just gonna say he's gonna go save DC now, but yeah, it's I love this movie, and I do. Volume 1 has a special place in my heart. It was the first Marvel movie that really grabbed me and said, "Wow, this can be something else." So no, there is a built-in appreciation there. So maybe that's why it's a little higher too. But I do think it is dang near. Can I say damn?
It's damn near.
All right. Damn
I'll say
near. It. It's a damn near perfect ending to a trilogy. It just shows you how to do it.
And, for James Gunn's swan song with Marvel, he left them, I think, their biggest hit of the year, surprisingly, and one of the most satisfying films of the year. And so I wish I shared that optimism for I'm going to try to keep an open mind for what he's going to do with DC, but so far I'm not impressed. I'm still sore of the Henry Cavill thing, but
he hasn't done anything.
I know
you
that's
haven't
a problem.
You haven't seen what he's done yet, so we'll see.
I know, so I can't judge it. Like I said, I'm going to keep an open mind, but I'm still carrying that resentment. But I'm looking forward to Superman Legacy. We'll see what he does. I love the character of Superman. That's a story for another day. And but anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 ended up in your top 5, and it was one of my films that did not make my list. It was number 7 on my Geeky Films, but it didn't make my overall list. But it was one of those that was close. It could have almost made it and all that. So next we have, are we going on the number 4?
Number 4
on my list there. This was the most underrated film of the year. It only did about 40 million domestic, which was a crying shame. And
that was shocking. Like I thought it had the creator. Appeal. Yeah, I thought it had the appeal. I mean, and that just goes to show you how people just don't respond to like something without IP. You know, it's like we can't watch something if we don't know the characters already. It's just kind of strange. But I do think that the visual effects and the creator are really outstanding. They
are outstanding, and on a lower budget too. We forget about that. You know, when studios want to throw hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars at things, there's going to be a film coming up towards the top here of the list. If you're watching the video, you can already see what it is, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But they do it on such a small budget. They do an incredible job with the film coming up. And they also did with the creator. I love the story. The young child that was acting in that did a phenomenal job. Their first acting job, I mean, phenomenal.
Yeah, and they got a Critics' Choice nomination for Best Young Artist.
And I want a sequel. I want a sequel to this. I want this universe to continue on. Here's an IP. You can give me a second one too. And I think, with a little bit more in a different year when things aren't so, I don't know, whatever, I feel this film could have done better. And I expected it to be a major hit. And I was blown away by it. I love it.
I think there could have been also this whole AI overload where people just didn't want to hear about it anymore. I don't know.
That's true.
Maybe that's why
that could be part of it, but that conversation I don't think is going away if things continue. But the creator's number 3 over on my overall top 10. Oh, excuse me, number 4, and that leads us to your number 4, which was my number 10.
Yeah, which we already discussed the holdovers. Yeah, we discussed the holdovers. Really enjoyed that one. So we'll just pop up to your number 3 then. How about that?
The Color Purple. Okay, I went into this film saying there's no way possible that they can top the original with Whoopi and Oprah and directed by Spielberg. What a powerful film that is. It's a generational film that many people watch every year. It's part of a tradition in a lot of families, the Color Purple. And while this film did not hit that same height, I'll tell you that the Color Purple, the 2023 version that's based on the Broadway version, that's what this is, was fantastic. I got to see it, and it was one of the only other times. There's only probably during the Barbenheimer thing where the lines were out the door. The lines were out the door for The Color Purple, and I was really disappointed at the recording of this. And my numbers may be off. I don't know if I have the numbers here. I don't. But it's not done that well comparatively. The Color Purple at the domestic box office, and I don't have any international numbers on it. But it ended up being my number 3 overall film because it is so powerful. I'm not a fan of Fantasia's singing style necessarily, but if they gave her an Oscar for her performances in this film, I would be all for it. She won me over in this film. It had a great ensemble cast. It was just very powerful film. And I was in a theater where people were clapping and cheering, and there are also some negative comments when there are some bad things that happen in the film. If you know the film, you understand. But it was just a fantastic film, and it was just really good filmmaking. And I dug the soundtrack. I thought it was awesome, and there's not too many. There's nothing really negative I can say about this film, and that's a good thing. And I would
No,
still say go see The Color Purple.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was in the same boat as you, where I revere Spielberg and basically everything he's done, and that is such a classic. And I was curious how it would be adapted. I mean, obviously they did the stage, the Broadway show. I think it's even been since '05 when it was. So it's been a long time since the Broadway show's been out, or since it made its debut. But it's very moving. I think I said that it's not as powerful as the original, but it is still very moving, because I think with a musical you have to kind of gloss over the abuse and the trauma a little bit. It's still there. It's certainly still there, but it's not as visceral as in the Spielberg film, because you're singing and dancing as well. So you kind of have to lighten the tone a little bit. But I agree. Great ensemble cast. Fantasia, lead actress, be all for a nomination. Danielle Brooks playing the Sophia role, the Oprah Winfrey role, could get some recognition there. I think my only criticism, there is one criticism. So they hired the pop star Her, to be in this film, and I think she sings like one line, like, because she's the one that played Squeak, and like you never really heard Squeak sing and never heard her sing, and I was just like, did they cut her out? Like, did they cut her, like, her song out or something? Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about the stage play. I don't know anything. So I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, we're gonna get to hear her sing, and
Right.
no, barely. But also Coleman Domingo as Mister is really good. Like, he might not be Danny Glover good, but he was awfully good. So, but he's looking at a possible Oscar nomination for another film he did this year called Rustin, that's on Netflix, about a civil rights leader. He's getting a little more buzz for that instead. But
what a range he has as an actor. I mean, those are just two totally different films, and he was great in this film. I mean, everybody. I mean, I can't find fault with this film, and that's a good thing. That's why it's a number 3, and that's why it was so high on my chart. And it was one of the reasons why I had to do a whole top 10 geeky films list, because I did not want the year to go by, 2023, without recognizing this as one of my top films. Yeah. So there it is. The Color Purple, number 3 for me.
Just quick hats off to the director. Blitz Bazuwale did an amazing job with it. He essentially he reimagined it as for another generation. Like, he basically kind of updated this classic story for another generation, and did a hell of a job.
Definitely. So let's see. I don't know. Help me out here. Do we need to go over to the Geeky Films at this point, or
no? Because we've got it to where your list is going to cover the Geeky list from here on out.
Okay.
So we'll go over to my number 3, which is Barbie. Did I expect to have Barbie in my top 10 this year? Probably not. But Greta Gerwig, the director here, I've been a fan of hers for a few years. I love Lady Bird. I love her adaptation of Little Women. That she is establishing herself as a great auteur right now. What a challenge this was to take on. Like, you're going to do a Barbie movie, and then how do you do that? Do you make it cheesy? Do you make it where you cater to the kids? And she chose not to. She chose to make this ultra feminist film that really has a lot to say about, society and the patriarchy.
Yeah, and I knew I was being preached to, but it's the best way that I've been preached to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That's actually a good point, because that is why it is not my number 1 film, because there are moments where it's like, okay, you're hitting us over the head a little bit, but it's okay. It's fun when you hit me over the head with it. Because, like, there's so many. Barbie is so funny. The script is so smart. Co-written by Greta Gerwig and her husband Noah Baumbach, and then Greta, directed it. Just some like they cast it perfectly. You can't get a better Barbie than Margot Robbie. Like, good Lord. Kate McKinnon is weird Barbie, perfect casting. Ryan freaking Gosling is the best thing in this movie, and I hate to say that about a kind of this feminist, ultra feminist film, but
okay, patriarchy.
But Ryan Gosling should win an Oscar for supporting actor, and like
he should.
And I'm a huge fan of the "I'm Just Ken" song. I think that should win for best song.
You are Knuff.
You are Knuff. But it's great music. It's like all original music. It's like you got Mark Ronson writing songs, you got Billie Eilish in there writing songs, you got Dua Lipa performing one of them. So I foresee this being a dominant force around the award circuit, and rightfully so. It's extremely smart. It's so funny and well made. The production design, the costume, the score, the acting, everything is great about it. And I did not think I'd be sitting here, praising Barbie, but here we are. It's a fantastic.
And the ironic thing is, as you didn't think Barbie would be in your top 10, and I couldn't imagine Barbie not being in my top 10, but when it came down to the types of films and even my overall, they were just films that for me were better. But I did enjoy Barbie. I went kicking and screaming to it, kind of like The Color Purple. My wife said, let's go see it. And so we went and saw it, and I loved The Color Purple, and I did enjoy Barbie. I was very pleasantly surprised. I kept an open mind with both films, and I was pleasantly surprised. And any other time, Barbie might have made my top 10, but just not this year. It gets an honorable mention from me. So, but still a great film and still a great accomplishment. And we talked about, I think, like costume design and all that. I feel like, help me out here. Costume design and what else? I feel like we thought could be locks for the Oscar. It's hard to say now because there's some other films that have come out.
Honestly, I think it's probably a lock for costume. I think it did not make the short list for hair and makeup. So I was a little bit surprised about that, but so it won't be in contention for that, but I could totally see it winning for production design. Although my number 2 film could give it a run for its money. For production design, and really so could the number 1.
Well, let's pivot over to your number 2 film then, since you mentioned it. What's your number 2 film for the 2023?
My number 2 film of the year is Poor Things, starring Emma Stone. So it kind of goes hand in hand with Barbie in a way, because it is a very feminist story about a woman finding her way in the world, but it's through this experiment, kind of a Frankenstein experiment. So like Emma Stone plays the titular character, the poor thing, where she basically has the brain of an infant implanted in her, in her head. And so she's trying to catch up. So she's in a Is
this a patriarchy film?
Well, in a way it is, because it's essentially she's created by, man, and then she's manipulated by and controlled by men. And so it's like there's this whole, control. It's basically her trying to break free of the patriarchy. So it is very similar to Barbie, but just done very differently. Very bizarre. It's very hypersexual, I will say, as a warning to people before you watch it. There's a lot of sexual awakening for the character here. But it's also
there is one line that's I won't say what it is in Barbie that I was surprised. A certain word that Barbie says, she learns she has something, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So for small kids, there's a bit of a warning there. But back to what you were saying.
Fair enough. But so it does go, kind of erotic for a little bit, but it's kind of the point. It's like. And it's a really smart metaphor for how women move through the world from childhood to adulthood. And if Emma Stone does not win her second Oscar this year, I'll be very surprised. An incredible performance from her. She might have some competition from Carey Mulligan for Maestro, or maybe Annette Bening for Naiad, or even Fantasia.
What about in Naiad, Jodie Foster?
Yeah, she could be,
I've heard some buzz.
Supporting actress. I could see her being in the running there. She's extremely good in it. That actually, I considered that one for my top 10, but it ended probably more around 20 or so. It was a really well done film. Annette Bening and Jodie Foster are the highlights of that, of course. But yeah, Poor Things is just the cinematography. It goes from black and white, for a while until color, into color, and it's kind of the production design is top notch. It's the most unique film you will see this year. And it's a Yorgos Lanthimos film. If you, the more accessible film that he's done in the past was The Favorite, also starring Emma Stone and Olivia Colman. And I think that was the one that Olivia Colman won her Oscar for. Written by the same guy, Tony McNamara. So just so unique that it just kind of blew my mind. Like, holy crap. And it just said so many intelligent things. And even though I'm, not a woman, it still, spoke to me and was really interesting. Definitely one of the most interesting films of the year.
Yeah, and let's see. That brings us on our films to, let's see, number two. My number two, and my number two for my overall top 10 films of 2023. My top two are this exact same as my top 10 geeky films of 2023, and a film that I didn't know what it was, other than a low budget Godzilla film, but Godzilla -1 blew me away. And then once again, in the era where studios are spending hundreds of millions of dollars, I went into this film expecting it to be something else and maybe something lower budget. In fact, I heard that the director, somebody said, what does it feel like to have made such a great film with a $15 million budget? And the director, I can't remember his name, but he said, well, I wish I had $15 million budget. So apparently it was less than $15 million reported budget for Godzilla -1. But what really touched me about films, and I said this to Scott earlier, is when you think of, by the way, this is for you, Digital K-Man, who's watching who's in the live stream here in the comments as well. He's a Transformers fan, and when you have the Michael Bay Transformers films, you had the Transformers, what they didn't deal with enough, and then they throw the humans, just kind of felt thrown in there. With Godzilla -1, it felt like an overall story, a drama, with Godzilla thrown in there. And the special effects, there was once or twice it looked a little cheesy when Godzilla's in the water one time, but the rest of it works. It pretty much starts off with a bang, and it's just a thrill of an action ride. Now, I think, Scott, you did say like in the middle, you might have dozed a little bit. I did fall asleep but I had a long day. So like right in the middle, but I didn't miss anything. I kind of dozed off for a second, but you get in those theaters with those comfortable reclining chairs and it's hard not to fall asleep.
Yeah. I'd say that was my only critique of the film was I felt like it did drag in the middle. The pacing got a little slow, but it is rare to see a film like this where they spend so much time developing the human characters. You're right. I really like this idea of the main character who's a coward in the kamikaze culture, where he would not crash his plane. It was on the last day of the war, after the war was over. So you kind of get it. Why would he kill himself for a cause that's already lost? But still, it's like he's reconciling with that the whole film, that he's a coward. So it's kind of like, and he's
right. And it's like Godzilla's kind of not chasing him through the film, but through the narrative, but he kind of is, it's just, it's like Japan's dealing with, you know, the World War II, the bombings there, of course. And then these people have, on top of that, is giant radioactive lizard, you know, destroying their whole cities or towns or whatever. And it's just kind of mind-boggling. And you almost feel like you're there in the moment. You feel what the character's going through and his struggle, and how his character, you get to see his character growth, which I like. It was just a very good story.
And it's not just him too. I think the story's great. And as far as it's about this, it's essentially a found family film, right? Where it's like these two, well, essentially three random people come together because, you know, she comes along with a baby that ends up not even being hers. So it's like they form a family, mother, you know, father, mother, daughter, or son. I can't remember if it was a girl or a boy, but, you know, father, mother, child, that aren't related. They're not blood relation, but they become a family under the worst of circumstances in post-World War II Japan, you know, amongst the rubble. They're living in the rubble, you know, and it's so it's more about that than it is about, you know, Godzilla. But it's so well done. You're right. Like I may have to rethink my list and bump it up a little higher, but I think the pacing was my only issue. Well, I won't say only, without spoilers. There's something at the end that kind of bugged me too, but again, I don't think we should give out spoilers.
Yeah, I don't want to give that out, but yeah, I would say run to cinemas. Digital K-Man was saying run. He's like, oh no, go Jira. I'm not sure, Jira. I don't know. Okay,
yeah,
Gojira. He's like, run, and he's like, stomp you. It will stomp you when you sleep. That's funny. But yeah, Godzilla -1. I am shocked that a Godzilla film made my top 10. I've not been a major fan of Godzilla, but I did like Godzilla versus Kong, and I know there's a new one coming out. But I think this film, Godzilla -1, is going to give that a run for its money in quality. And because effects aren't everything. You know, we learned this year that if your story is subpar, your film's going to fail. And the audiences are just not going to accept it. And plus, you know, coming from the pandemic, audience, their likes and what they'll take in films, I think, has changed. So I think there's a shift. I hope not away from cinema, because people need to experience things in cinemas. And Godzilla is something I wish I could have seen in IMAX. And talk for a second. I got to go grab something real quick for the camera.
Talk for a second. Well, do I go ahead and talk about our number one film? We can go right into our number one film then. Are you gonna? Oh, you got to show the Gojira. No, we'll just you did that quick enough.
Sorry. Hey, I got this for you, by the way. I've never gotten it to you. Probably can't see it.
Is that a lapel pin? What is that?
It's a ninja. It's a turtle. It's turtle time. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem that you mentioned. Let's see if I can turn that light off for a second.
That's
off. Gotta find the camera. Is that Leonardo? I think you probably can't see.
If it's orange, then that's probably Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. Okay, maybe that's one of them.
Get it straight, Ed.
I got one of them, but let's see. Let me turn my light back on here. Yeah, actually, I realized my Godzilla poster's right back here. You probably can't see it with the camera, but this is yours, by the way. So I got you.
Cool. I appreciate that.
Fantastic poster, man. I saw this and oh my gosh, it's great. Godzilla, go see it. It's not in IMAX anymore, but if you can go see it in IMAX or wherever, then you definitely should. And like I said, I was very surprised that it even made my top 10, but after seeing it, I wasn't surprised. Like one day, if I look back and I'll go, what was Godzilla -1? I'll remember that film. I know I will. And so that's number 2 on my overall list, and number 2 on my geeky top 10 films of 2021. And all things being equal, I think that brings us to our overall number 1 for everybody's list. Am I correct?
At least we agreed on something, right?
This one, when I saw the first trailer without knowing anything about the film, I said, this is going to win Best Picture. I still stand by that. And I said, I'm going to love this film. I did not know how much I would love the film. Oppenheimer, my number one geeky film of the year. Because, yeah, it is geeky. You reminded me. It's about like nuclear stuff and, you know,
science.
The bomb.
Yeah.
It's science. Exactly. Science. What an fantastic film. And I always say the gentleman's name wrong. The lead actor in this, what's his name?
Yeah, go ahead and say it wrong again.
No, I forgot his name. I was stalling.
All right. His name is Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy, not Cillian, but
not Cillian.
Cillian Murphy. I'm so happy for him. I have like such joy that he finally got this lead acting role, and I'm ready for him to accept the Oscar for Best Actor. He deserves it. Nolan deserves Best Director. I know people are putting their money maybe on Greta Gerwig. You and I wouldn't be disappointed in that, but this feels like this is Nolan's year, and this is his masterpiece. I think we agree on that.
Yeah, I agree. No, this is his masterpiece, and as big fans of Nolan, like I even loved Tenet. So, you know, so people may not agree with that, but like I think he's a masterful filmmaker. And at this point, this is his master opus. Like you wouldn't, it's kind of like Air in a way, where you wouldn't expect a film about, you know, the nuclear bomb to be so fascinating. And maybe I'm wrong in that regard, but like it's basically science. And like, again, it's science. And like,
science.
how are you gonna make this, you know, watchable?
Science doesn't care if you agree with it or not. It just is. But science also doesn't care if you don't think it's entertaining, because in Oppenheimer it is. Nolan made it entertaining.
And that's, you know, that has a lot to do with Nolan's vision, because really it's like especially with the tension that the score, that the music in the film builds, it's like it really drives it forward when nothing's really going on, but it's still very tense and you're just like on the edge of your seat. But yeah, talk about a great acting ensemble. Obviously, Cillian Murphy should be the front runner for Best Actor. I think maybe Bradley Cooper could maybe, I don't know, ruin that for him. We'll see how that goes. I would vote for Cillian Murphy myself. I think you're right. This is an iconic role for him. Yes, he has another iconic role with Peaky Blinders, if you know you watch that show. But this is like his feature. Like otherwise, like in feature films, he kind of had he was Scarecrow, and he was
Digital Caveman in the chat says they call him Scarecrow.
There you go. Yeah.
And yeah, and Mike I'm gonna say Michael Caine. Michael Caine. Wait a minute. What am I thinking of? Was Michael Caine wasn't it? That's Batman. Sorry. My brain. What's happening to my brain? Who's the other person?
Okay. So you've got you've got obviously with Cillian Murphy, you've got Robert Downey Jr., who
that's who I was going to say
is undoubtedly going to be up for an Oscar for this. I think I didn't mention Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. He'll probably Hulk and Iron Man will probably be going against each other in the supporting actor category this year.
Bring your Hulkbuster.
So yeah, but yeah, it was cool to see Downey Jr. kind of return to these really like arty, you know, roles. It kind of reminded him of you know, him disappearing into Chaplin and doing stuff like that again. So it was really cool to see that.
This generation needs to be reminded of how good an actor Robert Downey Jr. is.
We haven't seen him do anything else for 15 years. So, you know, it's been pretty great. It was really great to see that. You've also got she's an incredible performance out of Emily Blunt. It was like she's one of those in the film where it's like, why did you just hire her to play a housewife? And then when that scene comes where she hands the committee's asses to themselves, like that is an incredible scene. And she's so good, and she's one of my favorites. And you know that she's probably is my favorite actress out there, other than maybe Florence Pugh, who's also in the film and is great.
Pew.
Yep. I mean, even your boy Rami Malek, I really liked in this movie. So, really great cast, really great performances. Yep. The black and white. It was kind of a cool year for black and white films, and it wasn't all in black and white, but like some of it is. So you got Oppenheimer, you got Maestro, you got Poor Things. They all bring in black and white filmmaking, which is kind of a lost art. So it's nice to see that.
Yeah, I could go on and do a whole episode on Oppenheimer, how brilliant a film it is. And I'm so glad, that the Barbenheimer thing happened, even though Nolan's not really, of course, he's not, part of that. He doesn't believe in the whole Barbenheimer thing, but I don't care. If it got more people to see this wonderful film, then I was all for it. And so, it's almost a 3-hour film, or is a 3-hour film, and there's a lot of talking in it. And that says something. I think we're seeing a bit of a change. I think people are less for the superhero genre necessarily, and I think people are moving towards, we're going to see maybe some more comedies creep back in and start doing well. Maybe we'll see some more dramas like this that, really make you think. And, yes, I love the next popcorn movie like anybody else. I love the special effects. I love it all. But I love a story, and I love a film that knows its purpose and just delivers. And this film just totally delivers. So many great performances. Total masterpiece for Nolan. I hope this is the year that every Oscar goes to. There's not enough Oscars to give out for all the films I think that deserve it. And that includes Barbie. Believe it or not.
No, I think I think we're on the same page there. We're both rooting for it to win Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor. I think it probably should win Best Score, even though that's a really
supporting actor.
I'm a Gosling guy all the way there. I'm rooting for
you
Ken.
You are.
I'm rooting for Ken on that one. Sorry. I really do think that's the best supporting performance, the most memorable one. I would love it if they honored a comedic performance. They rarely honor comedy at the Oscars, so if they could just see their way to giving it to Gosling, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure he would too.
But the Golden Globes are tomorrow night, so are on Sunday night, January. What is that? 7th.
Because we're recording this is Saturday, January 6th, 2024. So that's tomorrow, January 7th.
So we'll start to see where the awards are, going. But it's the Globes are kind of are starting to lose their place among like prognosticators and honestly respect. Not a lot of people really respect the Golden Globes anymore. And rightfully so. They've kind of been kind of shady organization and pretty much been kind of, I think it's kind of proven that they were a little racist over the past few years.
A little?
A little. They didn't have any black members until I think, a year or so ago, which is just bizarre. But again, it is kind of the start of the award season. We'll see who wins the big awards and where they're going to go with it. It's that time of year.
Well, I don't have much to say. Much left to say.
What?
I'm all spoken out. I don't know. I'm super excited. I want the Oscars to come.
I'm impressed.
For some new films, and
I'm actually kind of impressed that we were able to get through all that in less than an hour and a half. So well done, Ed.
You have to keep me on target. Stay on target.
Onward and upward, as you said earlier.
Yes, onward and upward. And I'm going to play my. I want to give a shout out to Digital Caveman. I think you're still there in the chat. Thank you for joining us.
Is that Anthony?
Yes, it is.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. And I'm going to give him a shout out because we're friends. We've been podcasting since 2008. Off and on. And he has his YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@digital caveman with 2 N's. That's youtube.com youtube.com/@digitalcaveman. He's like, where are you and what did you do with Ed? I'm Ed. Anyway,
I know. He's like, I've run out of stuff to say.
Digital Caveman, I want to also give him a shout out too, because he just crossed, I think, 612 subs on his YouTube channel. So if you like our channel, you might like what he does. A lot of unboxings. He does a video every damn day. I don't know how he does it. He's done well over 700 and something.
That's impressive. Though.
He's quite impressive. His Jedi powers have far exceeded mine. So give him a check out on his channel. But also want to say he did help me with the new promo, which I kind of fubbed at the beginning here, and so hopefully you'll hear the new outro, and I'll put the new logo or whatever, video logo. He's like, you don't have a video logo for your show. I was like, I just hadn't had time. So anyway, Scott, I want to thank you as always. Thank you for taking your time. Thank you for keeping me on track. Thank you for all of your help and all that. I with your list, I always enjoy talking film with you, and thank you for being a good friend. And I always I look forward to our Oscar as the season's heating up, and I guess we'll have to come back and talk about the Golden Globes, or maybe we don't have to. I don't know.
We'll see. It may be tight. There's a national championship game tomorrow night, so I may be.
Oh, well, nobody's going to be watching the Golden Globes then.
Oh wait, Monday night. I mean,
Monday night. I don't know what tonight is.
Record Monday night, and I don't know. I'll be watching.
We'll have to see about that. I'm not quite sure about that. I'm starting my next semester of college, so
Golden Globes. Globes aren't as important, bud. We can pass on the Golden Globes. We can focus on some other better ones here that come up. I like the Critics' Choice Awards and obviously the Oscars. So
yeah. All righty. Well, let me try this. I'm going to run the outro here and try to say thank you, Scott, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here for live stream in this episode of the Digital Caveman podcast. Really? Geek Homeworld podcast. Digital Caveman with his 614 followers, which he just corrected me in the chat there. Congratulations. But thank y'all for joining us for this episode 166 of the Geek Homeworld podcast, our live stream here, and our top 10 films of 2023. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube there. And wherever you get your podcast, you'll hear this episode soon when I get it uploaded there. And we're trying to get some subs on our YouTube channel. So if you like our content, you might go subscribe and watch some videos. Anyway, here's the outro. And thank you, Scott. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone. It should be playing now. It's not playing. Just pretend like you're hearing the outro. Oh, wait a minute. It's loading. My computer's loading. There we go. Bye-bye.